Welcome to the Talk Like a Leader podcast, where we explore the mindset, skill set, and habit set of leadership communication. Using these tips, techniques, and tactics, you'll be able to talk like a leader to build better relationships and get more done. Your host is Guy Harris, who has more than 20 years of combined professional and military experience in consulting, coaching, and training in areas like team and interaction dynamics, communication strategies and tactics, as well as emotional intelligence. Take it away, Guy.
Hi, this is Guy Harris. Welcome to the Talk Like a Leader podcast. In this week's episode, we're going to talk about the idea of chronic conflict, and I'll share a perspective with you on how it actually gets worse before it gets better. Now, frankly, I don't have enough time to cover every nuance and subtlety raised by today's topic. I do hope to give you something to think about and to thoughtfully consider how to apply to your leadership situation. Now, first, let's consider the idea of chronic versus acute. Acute problems are those problems that appear suddenly and often with little warning. Chronic problems are things that persist for a long time or they're constantly recurring. They might be low level that you're not even completely aware of, and sometimes chronic conditions, when they're unchecked, can reveal themselves in an acute problem. So acute problems might actually be chronic problems that were left unaddressed. Now, before I get into the idea of chronic conflict and how it often gets worse before it gets better, let me tell you a story about a situation I had recently. Talk about my garage. I've lived in my house for now just slightly over 2.5 years. And when we first moved in, we had a whole bunch of things, all kinds of boxes and tools and miscellaneous stuff that got piled into our garage when we moved in. And we moved in right before Christmas, and it was a very hectic time. There was a lot of family stuff going on. We were trying to coordinate a bunch of things, and it sort of made sense to just pile it in the garage and move on. Well, that was a little over 2.5 years ago. We also have 2 cats that basically call our garage home. So we have 2 cats plus all this stuff. In the course of 2.5 years, a lot of that stuff got covered with cat hair, which we cleaned up from time to time, but still, it got in the nooks and crannies of places where we weren't moving piles around and rearranging boxes to clean up cat hair and dust and spiders. They were just kind of building up in the garage. And the cats also kind of liked the paper on the sheetrock, and where they could get to the walls, they scratched some of the walls. Not badly, but still, there was damage to the walls. And over the course of 2.5 years, we wound up with this mess of cat hair, scratched walls, dust, spiders, spider webs, and piled up stuff. It has been a constant source of frustration and aggravation, and we've had situations where we couldn't find things because there was no place for them. There'd just be a box somewhere that had never been properly and completely unpacked, so it was just sitting in the garage, and my wife and I would have this conversation about where is such and such tool? And she would say, or I would say, well, I think I saw it somewhere over in this corner. And it would come out of whatever box or corner it was in to be located to a new corner or box at some point because there was no place for it. The garage, even though mostly out of sight, was always just a little on our minds. Like I said, we have cats that live out there, and we had to visit the garage periodically to get things and to take care of the cats and to feed and water them, clean their litter box, to find the tool or thing we were looking for that was stored in the garage. So we had to go out to the garage frequently. It's just not a living space. It's a out of sight, out of mind sort of space. We visit there occasionally, not all the time. So we could go into our cleaner part of the house and for a while sort of forget about the garage. Well, the truth is that frustration built because it was never fully resolved. This frustration built and built and built until we finally broke and said, we have got to do something about this. So we went and shopped for storage solutions, and we drew up plans and came up with this plan for how to fix the garage problem. The process then of installing the storage solutions we identified was complicated by having to work around the mess, the cats, the dust, the spiders, the cat hair, and the scratched walls. Plus, in the process, we had to repair the damage done by not fixing the garage properly in the beginning. Like I said, the scratched walls and other things that were out there. They're not major damage, they're just things that made it take a little longer and cost a little more money to fix than it would have taken if we'd done it originally. So here's the impact. the actual cost and work of installing the storage solutions was about the same as if we'd done it over 2 years ago, meaning the actual storage solution we installed probably cost about the same and took about the same amount of effort to install. The total cost in both time and money of fixing the whole problem was more because of the damage repair and workarounds we had to do, the more complicated environment of a garage that already had stuff in it, that we had to work around the cats, and we had to move piles from one place to another. We had to rearrange things and move stuff out of the way. Then, on top of all the stuff that was in the garage, we had the packing material and boxes and other things that came with our storage solution. And we had to clear space on the floor to assemble the storage solution. So the whole process got significantly more complicated because it wasn't dealt with originally. Okay, so how does our garage fit with the idea of chronic conflict? Well, let's think about what a chronic conflict is. Go back to the idea of chronic versus acute. Chronic is persisting for a long time. Acute is all of a sudden. And frankly, you probably don't overlook acute conflicts. They appear. They're right in your face. There's the blow up in the meeting, or there's the confrontation someone has over a project plan, or whatever the situation is. It's very clear and very direct. It's probably the chronic conflicts that cause greater challenges to a leader because they are sort of floating under the surface. And they're those little things that you kind of know it needs to be dealt with. Like our garage, we knew it needed to be dealt with. It's just that there was always something else more important. And the pressure of the unresolved conflict built and built and built until we basically snapped and it became acute. So what are some leadership issues that might be chronic conflicts? Well, they could be unaddressed employee performance issues. They could be interactions between people in the workplace that you see are spiraling in a bad direction. They could be missed deadlines. There could be project completion challenges or quality challenges. I don't know specifically what your issue is, but the truth is we all have them. All of us have chronic conflicts in our lives that sort of float under the surface. They sap our focus and energy. They get in the way. They slow us down in doing things. Like, for example, when I would have to go to the garage to find a tool. Maybe it was a particular hammer I was looking for, and I couldn't find it because it had no place. The chronic conflict got in the way of me doing what needed to be done. Well, chronic conflicts can do the same thing in the workplace. They can cause us to be sensitive in our interactions with people, to not speak openly and forthrightly, to behave in ways that damage trust and open communication. Like I said, I don't know your specific situation. I'm pretty sure if you think about it, you can think of situations that are chronic conflicts. And the challenge is if they continue to be chronic conflicts rather than getting addressed, when they become acute, they may be so big they're almost impossible to turn around. What we do know about chronic conflicts is that they're going to get worse before they get better. And like our garage, as soon as you choose to address it, it's going to make it acute. As soon as we decided to start tackling the garage, we had to move things. We had to clean out the cobwebs. We had to confront the dust and cat hair and kitty litter that was behind boxes and all the stuff, the damaged walls. We had to address it. We made those things acute. We raised them from back of mind, low focus issues to front of mind, intensely focused issues. And like our garage, the longer it goes unresolved, the more mess there is to clean up and rearrange, like all the boxing and packing materials and things we had to clean out of our garage. The longer it goes on, the more it's going to cost you to fix it because the cost of fixing the underlying issue probably won't get worse. It'll be about the same. Whatever the issue is, it's going to cost what it costs to fix it. What will get worse is the added cost of fixing the damage caused by ignoring it, by fixing all the stuff that piles up in the meantime. So here's the thing I want to leave you with today. I don't know where you have chronic conflict in your life. I'm pretty confident that if you stop and think about it, you're going to find it. And what I'm going to suggest is you think about one chronic conflict that is going on in your leadership role. And I'd like to say in the next 24 hours, if you can, start addressing it. If it's more complex and requires some thinking and planning to do it, then at least make a plan for how you're going to address it. And then take action. Engage with that person. Have a conversation, or people, as the case may be. It might be more than one person. And like our garage, you need to be prepared for it to get worse before it gets better. Getting worse does not mean that it's getting worse in the sense of not being fixable. It's just that as you raise all these buried emotions to the surface, it's probably going to get worse before it gets better. The key is to maintain hope that if we'll persevere in the process and we resolve this issue, it will get better, even though it gets worse in the short term. Be prepared to confront the damage you didn't know about. You're going to uncover things you have no idea about as you address chronic conflicts with people or with your team. Be prepared for that and be okay with it. As you address it, make sure you allow enough time for both you and the other person or people involved to get their concerns and hurts from the past on the table. Make enough space for talking about the past that you can at least understand how people feel about things. Don't let it go too long, though. What you want to do is, as quickly as you can, without communicating that you didn't hear people, shift to the future and talk about what you can both do to make the situation better in the future. So if you can't address chronic conflicts, be prepared for them to get worse before they get better. Be prepared to fix whatever emotional damage you uncover in the process. Be prepared to talk about how you can go forward together and what you can do together to work better together in the future rather than end the relationship. You can talk like a leader. This has been the Talk Like a Leader podcast. You can listen to this show every week wherever you get your podcast. If you haven't, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. I'm Guy Harris, and thanks for listening.